Exactly. I mean, look, we have to speak facts here. Colonialism and capitalism together lifted more people out of poverty in the world than any other two forms that we have here. Wherever you go in the world, particularly British colonialism, every region of the world, the most successful, the most democratic, and usually the richest countries are those that have a former colonial British inheritance. That applies to the Americas, South America, Africa, Asia, and elsewhere. And there's a reason that Canada, Australia, and New Zealand always rank amongst the 10 best countries in which to live, and that's because of their colonial inheritance. You know, the army, the military, schools, universities, hospitals, the infrastructure of government, the civil service, all of that is due to the British inheritance. And if you look around the world, it's impossible to say that the countries of Africa and Asia and elsewhere would have had the evolution towards democratic legislatures and stable countries were it not for colonialization.
Well, it's an interesting statement. It's a brave statement. Narinder is, there's steam coming out of her ears.
There really is. I mean, Rafe, you sound quite mad. I mean, I don't know where you get your facts from.
Well, for history books, you should try to read one once in a while.
I don't know which history books you're reading, but they're not correct, because you're talking about benefits to who? Self-indigenous people and people who were colonised. Actually, I call colonisation genocide. Let's speak facts. Your facts are actually British colonisation, genocide, killed...
Genocide is a very difficult word.
I let you speak. Killed hundreds of millions of people. It's murder. There's a legal liability here. They killed hundreds of millions of people colonising the world. And actually, I don't like this argument, Eamon, that actually it was in the past, because you said that in the break, that actually it's in the past, let it go. The ramifications of colonisation are still felt today. Aboriginal people are still the poorest in health, education. An Aboriginal teenager is more likely to go to prison than university.
I'll tell you what I think. I mean, it's very controversial. I mean, I'm from Ireland, and, you know, colonisation there, we still live with today. It's not... I totally understand your argument there, but part of me says, look ahead, stop looking back. We can't change the past.
How can you look ahead when you're still suffering? People who were former slaves, their families are still suffering.
No one is suffering from colonialism. Come on, Narinder, you're spouting nonsense. Firstly, hundreds of millions of people...
Hundreds of millions of people were murdered. Rafe, you don't know your facts, and I feel sorry for you.
Narinder may be saying, everything you said may well be true, but Narinder basically is saying it wasn't worth the price that was paid.
Well, it's absolute nonsense. Firstly, excuse me, it's now my turn to speak. Thanks so much. Hundreds of millions of people did not die underneath the British Empire.
Yes,
that's complete nonsense. Also, life expectancy for Aborigines for thousands of years had been 40 years of age. You know, they were a Stone Age Paleolithic culture when the British arrived there.
So
they now have life expectancies of 70 years, 30 years longer.
No, that's not correct either.
I'm sorry, I'm giving you the absolute facts here.
Their life expectancy is decades less than white Australians.
And there are many reasons for that, but it's not due to colonialism. Their life expectancy increased by 30 years in 200 years. After tens of thousands of years, it was 40 years. I'm terribly sorry, but you need to go back and do some research.
No, Rafe, you don't know your facts, because actually colonisation or genocide has put Australians, South-Indigenous people, behind hundreds of years.
Everywhere you go.
Put Indians back hundreds of years. You're not right in anything.
Excuse me, under the Raj, the British population...
You can't actually say that because Britain made some trains and we did this and we did that. We did great. You did it for your own benefit.
The Indian population...
The only thing that benefited colonisation was British, their pockets. You lined your pockets on the backs of indigenous people.
I will guess that the general audience that's listening and watching us today will respect what both of you are saying, but they'll say you're losing the argument, because he seems very calm about this, and you rightly probably, so you're inflamed about this, aren't you?
Because people died at the hands of British government and the British monarchy.
All right, I'm sorry, can I just interject here?
Let me finish now.
Well, you've spoken for quite a while.
People died, Eamon. Hundreds of millions of people died.
Okay, how do you respond to that?
Under the Indian Raj, the population of India increased from 170 million to 450
20 million died in the Bengal famine.
The whole cyclical famines of India ended because of British storage techniques and malnutrition projects.
You're actually lying about your facts.
Well, I'd love to have a longer discussion where I can expose the nonsense that you're spouting here. Also, the British advanced women's rights in India. The history of women in India is one of oppression. The British banned sutti, the burning of widows on the funeral pyres. The British stopped the infanticide of girls, and the British allowed Hindu women to remarry.
Killed in 1919. You shot dead.
You wouldn't be here
children
enjoying the
in this
lifestyle you
darling
are were it not for the Britain's great
basically,
advances for women. I'm terribly sorry.
Rafe, what you're saying is, because Britain, the great British Empire, we went there and we advanced social justices and all that. Therefore, I'm lucky. I'm not lucky if my ancestors were murdered at the hands
Your
of
ancestors
British
are also
generals.
my ancestors. We're both
They were
Sikhs,
murdered,
all right? So don't
therefore.
speak as if you have
People were
complete
murdered.
domain
I'm
over
not
this.
Lucky.
All right?
I'm not lucky.
You are
Indian
absolutely
people,
lucky.
Aboriginal people are not lucky because of British colonisation. British colonisation was genocide.
I'm saying as
and
a
it
woman,
needs
as
to
an
be
Indian woman, you are
acknowledged.
lucky because
I'm
of
not lucky.
colonisation, because
I'm
your
not
life
lucky.
would not
I
be
live
as...
in a country where I face racism. I could have been back home, and actually India could have been richer. Thankfully, we are richer now. Thankfully, 'cause
India is one of the
karma
world's 5 most racist countries. I'm terribly sorry to break it to you.
That's got nothing to do with...
Wow, wow, wow. Was that fireworks or was that fireworks, folks? This lady right here, Narinder, the only thing that she has going for her right now is that she actually made her bona fides is her body. Her bona fides is that she was on one of those reality shows and a TV personality of some kind. The only thing, she has nothing up here. She had nothing up here. Everything that she has is basically downstairs. If you check out the thumbnail that had, she's posing in a bikini, and that's perfectly fine. But she's out here. She's of ethnic origin, of Indian origin. I believe she was born in Britain. Rafe is also, their ancestry or their ethnic origin is Sikhs. And she keeps basically talking about the genocide and the killing and the murdering that occurred during, Britain's time when they were colonizing other places around the world. And yes, you can have a debate as to, yes, whether that was right, whether that was wrong, whether that was good, that was evil. Were there atrocities that were committed from the British side? Of course there were. Were there atrocities committed from the people that were being colonized on their own people at that time? Of course there were. But the fact of the matter is, when Rafe, he basically checkmated, Corinda, he just checkmated her. And he said, you are better off living here now in England than you would have been in India. And she goes, no, I wouldn't. No, that's not true. Well, then why don't you go outside? Why don't you leave? Leave Britain. Go back to India and live over there, if it's so great. And the India of today would not have been the India of today if it hadn't been for British rule. You want to take a prime example? You can see just take a look at its neighboring country, Pakistan versus India. At one time, they were all together. But the infrastructure that the British left, the vestiges are more prevalent in India than they are in Pakistan. And look at the superpowered, of India versus its contemporary Pakistan. It's not even close, folks. As far as an industrious nation, India is by far away in Asia. Very, very well off. Now, the other thing that happens is with her, typical in terms emotional, getting upset, just throwing out the same thing, basically, no facts, no figures, just 100 million people, 100 million people. I think you mean communism, honey, or socialism. That's what did that. But Rafe, I've seen some of his other videos. He puts down the facts, he puts down the data. The same thing is happening with other colonized countries around the world. Where would they have been? And the fact of the matter is, you can't look back to the past anymore. That's exactly what they do here in the United States of America. They look back to the 1840s and 30s. So this slavery, as if that's going to dominate the entire landscape of your country, of your legacy forever. That's it. It's like the Germans. The entire legacy is Adolf Hitler and Nazism. You have to look forward, and there's not a single living person right now anywhere around the world, anywhere, that today is a victim, or that can claim that they're still being victimized in terms of what happened to their ancestors. Now, there's a whole other avenue we can talk about, which is for another topic, another day, in terms of the slave trade is still going on. There's still indentured servitude around the world, folks. In fact, it's probably much more today than it was back then. They just call it by another name, indentured servitude. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host, Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow us. Let us know what you think. I'll leave you with my final thought, which is, when you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.